Hey guys, really quick, for the entire months of June and July at Fantasy Sabers, we're giving away the Negotiator Deluxe Edition with every Saber order. We've extended this sale for 1 month, so don't miss out. What if Padme Amidala was a dark Jedi? Padme was more than just the elected queen of Naboo. Hidden beneath the outfits and makeup lay a dark secret. She was a dark Jedi, self-taught through various Sith holocrons and ancient Force texts that her father had acquired through the black market. A dark Jedi is a Force sensitive who uses the dark side but isn't a true Sith. She did not follow the rule of two. Instead, she believed in absolute personal power, using the dark side as a tool for her own gain. She ruled Naboo, her public image one of compassion and democracy, while behind closed doors she studied ancient Sith holocrons, honed Force abilities, and plotted her rise to power. She wanted order, control, and a dynasty that would last forever. However, she needed an heir. And then on Tatooine, during the event of the Phantom Menace, she found Anakin Skywalker. When she and Qui-Gon walked into the junk shop on Tatooine, she immediately sensed the boy's immense Force potential. She was more attuned to the Force than Qui-Gon, and quickly picked up on this detail. She wanted to see what the boy was like, whether he had real potential, and in the following days, she saw the truth. Not only did Anakin win the Boonta Eve pod race, but he assisted Naboo in the defense of their planet, single-handedly destroying the droid command ship. At just 9 years old, his achievements echoed across the stars. This boy would change the course of galactic history, and he must be hers to control. However, she had one problem. Anakin had been accepted into the Jedi Order to be trained by Obi-Wan Kenobi, but Padme believed she could get around this. She senses inside Anakin that he's already formed an attachment to her. He told Padme when they first met that he thought she was an angel, and Padme realizes that she can use this attachment, this bond of love inside Anakin, to twist and bend him to the dark side so he can become her heir. She starts plotting her plans. She knows she can't touch him while he's in his early stages of Jedi training, so decides to completely sever herself from Anakin, using absence to make the heart grow fonder. Padme knew Anakin wouldn't forget about her so easily. His attachment was stronger than that. After a few years, Padme would check up on Anakin whilst he was sleeping, checking in his mind that he still cared for her, and sometimes planted subtle dreams of her face, reinforcing the love he felt for her. Padme had an innate connection to dark side alchemy. Studying from the texts of Zozan, a famous female dark side alchemist from the days of the Dark Jedi exiles, Padme learned how to use the dark side to manipulate the mind, foster emotions that weren't there, and could completely change a person's ideology. This was her real power, the power to control the minds of others, and this would be essential when she created her empire. 6 more years go by until we reach the events of Attack of the Clones. During this time, Padme increased her presence in the Republic Senate, creating her pacifist image, promoting virtue and unrealistic goals of policy, focused towards the most disadvantaged in society, knowing it could never be put into action. She became infamous in the Senate, and her popularity only grew. She also spent countless hours investigating and meditating in the Force, trying to find out who the true Sith Lord was. She knew Maul had to be the apprentice, considering his power, but failed to discover the true identity of Darth Sidious, and the dark side remained quiet to her questions. However, little did Padme know, Darth Sidious, or by his real identity, Chancellor Palpatine, was attempting to do the same thing as her. Palpatine created a detailed plan on how he would manipulate Anakin Skywalker to his side and use his power to wipe out the Jedi and establish his own galactic rule. It's a complete coincidence that Dooku starts plotting assassination attempts on Padme, but the result is Anakin being assigned to protect her. Padme knew the time had come. A decade of absence had grown the love for her in Anakin's mind, and her manipulation would begin. They spent days together as Padme subtly seduced Anakin. She knew he loved her, but she played subtle tricks, pushing and pulling, hot and cold, which only drove Anakin's feelings towards her through the roof. He was crazy in love until he confessed his feelings towards her, and Padme told Anakin she felt the same and that they could be together. But she didn't mean it, and her manipulation was complete. In the following days, the Clone Wars began, and Padme knew This was the ultimate plan of the Sith. Together, Anakin and Padme got married in secret and moved in together on Coruscant. As the Clone Wars erupted around the galaxy, Padme found herself spending more and more time with Anakin. At first, it was to ensure her influence remained over him, to continue feeding him whispers of doubt about the Jedi, and strengthen the bond of devotion he held towards her. But something unexpected began to happen. In moments between missions, as he returned from battles, bloodied, triumphant, and victorious, she began to see him not as a tool or an heir, but as a man. His raw power in the Force was unlike anything she had ever felt. He would speak to her of his dreams, his frustrations with the Council, of his desire for peace and order. But it was the way he spoke to her, like she was the only light left in the chaos that chipped away at her walls. For the first time in years, Padme felt an emotion she had worked so hard to keep away. Love, true love. She manipulated Anakin into falling for her, but now she was falling for him. Not the boy from Tatooine, but the warrior forged on the battlefield, destined to reshape the galaxy. She realized something terrifying. She no longer wanted him to be her heir. She wanted him to be her equal. She had to adjust her plans and believe now, with love fueling her power, she could not lose. During the Clone War, Anakin's power grew at an astonishing rate. Each battle made him stronger, more confident, and less restrained by Jedi teachings. He began using his emotions, his anger, his love as fuel, and Padme could feel the darkness slowly growing within him. Meanwhile, Palpatine's manipulation of the war was working flawlessly. The galaxy was turning against both the Jedi and Senate, disillusioned by endless conflict. But also Palpatine whispered in Anakin's ear, praising his strength, planting seeds of doubt, and slowly pulling him closer to the dark side. Both Padme and Palpatine were manipulating Anakin, and both thought they were successful. We get to the events of Revenge of the Sith, where the unexpected happened. Padme found out that she was pregnant. She didn't know how this could have happened. She hadn't planned for this. She told Anakin, and his reaction surprised her. He was extremely happy, and couldn't wait to build their family of theirs together. Padme knew the time was coming soon to tell Anakin about her true power. He was getting closer and closer to the dark side. He had just defeated Dooku in cold blood, and now it's only a matter of time. However, Palpatine jumps on this. He plants dreams in Anakin's mind of Padme dying in childbirth, similar dreams that he had of his mother that ended up becoming true. This begins to drive Anakin crazy, as he does anything in search of the power to save Padme from death. This turns him against the Jedi Council, and only pulls him closer towards Palpatine. Padme didn't know what to do about Anakin's visions. She knew he was powerful enough to sense the future, but something seemed off. These visions were repetitive, similar, which wasn't typically the case for Force visions. Something was off, so she decided to ignore them and did not believe she would die. She tried to convince Anakin of the fact, but he didn't believe it. Palpatine reveals his true identity to Anakin as Darth Sidious, the only one with the power to save Padme from certain death, and from here, we know how this plays out. Anakin helps Palpatine defeat Mace Windu, and together executes Order 66 to purge the Jedi Temple. Padme felt it instantly, the dark side rising, the death of the light side. The temple is burning in flames. She knew Sidious had made his move. She tried to contact Anakin, but he wasn't answering. She could still feel him through the Force, so she knew he wasn't dead. She thought he might be at the temple, but it was too risky, so she decided to stay at her apartment and meditate in the Force for answers. Time went by instantly, and it was only hours later when Anakin arrived back at their apartment. She played the innocent role, asking what had happened, and Anakin told her that the Jedi had attempted to overthrow the Chancellor, but they defeated them together and declared the Jedi the enemies of the Republic. But Padme caught his words, asking what he means by defeating the Jedi together. And Anakin tells Padme the truth. Palpatine knows the ways of the Force, but kept his powers hidden because he knew the Jedi would arrest him for this. It all ticked in Padme's mind. Palpatine must be Darth Sidious. It's genius. He's controlled both sides of the war this entire time. Padme knew the moment was upon her, the moment she had to reveal everything to her beloved, and hope that together they could steal power for themselves. Padme stood in silence for a moment. She closed her eyes and let the Force flow through her. She stopped concealing her presence in the Force, no longer hiding what she was from Anakin. Shadows seemed to dance around the room as a subtle surge of power emanated from her body. The truth could no longer be concealed. She had walked the path of the dark side for years, not as a servant of the Sith, but as a master of her own destiny. She revealed herself fully to Anakin, unleashing a ripple of power through the Force, allowing him to feel her strength and knowledge. Anakin's initial reaction was a storm of conflict. He couldn't believe it. The women he loved, the women he had built his future around, had been hiding a power that he had never sensed. For a moment, he felt betrayal, confusion, anger, but it didn't last. Padme knew exactly how to reach him, not through reason, but through emotions. Everything she had done, every lie, every secret was rooted in love. She showed him her vision for the galaxy, not one ruled by fear like Palpatine's, but one born of unity, strength, and legacy. She told him through the Force, through their bond, that she had always believed in him, that their love could reshape the very fabric of the galaxy. With the Republic fallen and the Jedi destroyed, they no longer needed to serve anyone. Together they could rise, defeat Sidious, and establish an empire of their own. One where their children would rule, and the name Skywalker would echo through eternity. Anakin stood for a moment, then slowly stepped forward and took Padme's hand. In that instant, his doubts melted away. Her power didn't scare him, it completed him. Everything the Jedi denied him, love, passion, control, Padme embraced without shame. He saw clearly now, and they left instantly. Together they marched straight into the Chancellor's office. Palpatine rose from his throne as the doors opened, a faint smirk on his lips until he saw Padme. For the first time, he truly looked at her through the Force, and what he felt shook him. The dark side clung to her, more refined, disciplined, and more dangerous than it did for Anakin. He realized that Padme must have hidden her Force sensitivity all this time, and that the only thing stronger than his manipulation of Anakin was the bond between husband and wife. Without a word, Palpatine struck first, his hands crackling with Sith lightning. But Padme was ready. She raised both hands as she put up a Force shield, whilst Anakin ignited his lightsaber and lunged towards Sidious. He was forced to disengage his lightning, to ignite his blade, to block Skywalker's strikes, as Padme ignited her own crimson saber to join the battle. The fight was brutal and fast. Sidious fought like a cornered beast, twisting through the air with unnatural speed. Padme attacked in perfect tandem with her husband. Sidious was strong, but not strong enough. Love fueled their every strike, and in a final surge of power, Padme held Sidious in place with the Force as Anakin drove his saber through the Chancellor's chest. The Dark Lord of the Sith gasped. Disbelief etched across his face, and then fell silent, dead, with the Sith slain and no Chancellor to speak for the Republic. Anakin and Padme wasted no time. They entered the Senate chamber together. The senators rose in confusion and fear, the air heavy with tension. With commanding authority, Padme spoke. She declared that Supreme Chancellor Palpatine had been revealed as a Sith Lord who had manipulated the Republic into war and treason. The Jedi, she claimed, allowed his rise through weakness and complacency. With Palpatine dead and the Jedi Order intact, it was time for a new order, one ruled not by corruption or cowardice, but by strength and unity. Anakin and Padme declared themselves Emperor and Empress of the new galactic empire. The stunned silence was broken by scattered applause, then cheers from those desperate for stability. The clone army, still loyal to the Supreme Chancellor, now answered to Anakin and Padme Skywalker. Shortly after, Padme received a secure transmission from Bail Organa. His face was grave and his voice edged with disbelief. He asked what she was doing, how could she support this, and stand by someone destroying the Jedi. He told her that Obi-Wan and Yoda were still alive, that they were regrouping. But Padme's heart was already hardened. She looked at Anakin, and he understood without words. As long as Yoda and Kenobi lived, the Jedi threat would remain. Not just to their rule, but to their children, legacy and vision of peace through power. Together they flew to the Jedi Temple and sensed the two survivors inside. Padme and Anakin rushed forward as they found Obi-Wan and Yoda together in the communication center, eyes wide with shock at what they saw. Their expressions were grim, not with hatred, but sorrow. They had hoped to redeem Anakin, perhaps even reach Padme, but what stood before them were not the people they once knew. They were something more, and something far darker. The confrontation erupted like a storm. Anakin charged at Obi-Wan, sabers clashing with a fury that sent shockwaves through the chamber. Padme engaged Yoda, her fighting style elegant and precise. Yoda countered with speed, but Padme was relentless, using her mastery of darkside alchemy to cloud his senses and blind his movements. She unleashed darkside tendrils of Sith sorcery. These shadowy writhing coils erupted from her hands, manifestations of her hatred and will, tearing into Yoda and Obi-Wan's mind and soul. Unlike a physical attack, the tendrils assaulted his consciousness directly, drowning them in madness and illusions, fracturing their focus. She pressed forward, overwhelming their spirits, as Anakin disarmed Obi-Wan and drove his saber through his former master's chest. Yoda sensed the loss too late, as Padme unleashed a surge of dark force energy that shattered the floor beneath them. As Yoda stumbled, she descended in a blur of motion, her blade finding its mark on the Grand Master's neck as she removed it from his torso. The temple grew silent, as with the Jedi's death here, they had cemented their victory over the galaxy. In the years following the fall of the Jedi, Anakin and Padme's empire rose with terrifying speed. The transition from Republic to absolute rule was swift and merciless. Using the loyalty of the clone army, they deployed legions to occupy and subdue any star system that dared resist. Minor rebellions flared in the Outer Rim, but they were crushed quickly and ruthlessly under Anakin's iron will. With full access to the Jedi archives and selection of Sith holocrons, Anakin's power surged beyond measure. He consumed every secret, mastered every form, and reached his full potential, a living legend, unrivaled in strength and power. No Jedi, no Sith, no being in history could match him. Padme forged the galactic infrastructure of their reign. She ruled with elegance and precision, enacting laws that ensured control while maintaining the illusion of order and unity. Where she commanded loyalty, Anakin commanded fear. Together they recruited surviving fallen Jedi and powerful Force sensitives to build a new disciplined Dark Jedi Legion under their control. Padme successfully gave birth to the twins Luke and Leia, and over the years, 3 more children followed, each strong in the Force, each trained by Anakin and Padme to carry the legacy of the Skywalker dynasty. With the construction of the Death Star, resistance became unthinkable, and the galaxy belonged to them. Their influence spread even into the unknown regions, where Anakin and Luke personally led the conquest, obliterating the Grisk and forcing the Chiss into surrender. When the Yuuzhan Vong invaded, this left trillions dead across the stars. Anakin led the counteroffensive, and in a titanic duel, he defeated their leader Omni, ending the threat once and for all. In the archives of long-forgotten Sith knowledge, Anakin unearthed the legendary journal of Darth Plagueis the Wise. Within it, he discovered the secret to immortality, not through selfish horizons of life, but bending the Force itself to the will of the Skywalker bloodline. He shared this power only with his direct family, and so the Skywalker reigned, immortal, infinite, eternal. Their empire stretched from the core to the edges of existence. Their galaxy had become theirs, forever. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to watch What If Qui-Gon Spoke to the Jedi Council, or What If Anakin Became the Emperor. Don't forget to check out Fantasy Sabers for the best NeoPixels on the market, and may the Force be with you.